Okay. So we'll discuss the transit of the first birthday of the website. But friends, as Michael used to say, in my present state of ignorance, I will only mention 2 points. Pluto, transiting Pluto here. Let me put my pointer. Transiting Pluto in Aquarius, conjuncting our natal Pluto in Capricorn. And the other one that I will mention is here, Chiron, transiting Chiron in Aries, conjuncting exactly our North Node in Aries in the 3rd house. So let's start first of all with transiting Pluto in Aquarius. What does that mean? So Pluto's entry in Aquarius will bring us new ideas, new themes, and new focuses. We will become more aware of inequality and injustice being Aquarian themes. Our focus will be on independence, freedom, emancipation, renewal, decentralization, and networking. Again, Aquarian values. So we will question many previous values, including our forms of government, hierarchies in companies, previous bureaucratic processes, international treaties, but also the structure of the world itself. So group exchange, freedom, solidarity, and we will see the list of these Aquarian qualities in the next 2 slides. So these are Aquarian values which Pluto, working for the soul, will bring to the fore. And Pluto rules the 12th house, right? Being the sole ruler of Pisces, which naturally rules the 12th house. So Pluto is in a very, very strong placement here. So to us disciples, what does that mean? Is that this aspect emphasizes freedom, Uranus, the ruler of Aquarius. Freedom from personality attachment or death to personality attachments. So bringing detachment, objectivity, divine indifference, and that is greater identification with the soul, with the whole, with spirit, if we can identify with spirit, but at least with the whole, the cosmos, the bigger picture. So here are some Aquarian keywords, but I underline the ones that are most applicable to us. Group consciousness, feeling part of the greater whole. We will respect the group ideals. We will identify with the interest of our group as our own. Freedom. We don't like to feel confined, but for us disciples, it will be more freedom from personality attachments. So that's a key point for us. We want to change and free the whole society, again, from personality and from the forces of the 3 worlds. Strong ideals strives for the good of all, and this is basically what we do. By distributing these ideas, we are actually changing, we are bringing a society more conscious of esoteric values, because we work in the matter of the mental plane. Other ideas, fair-mindedness, equality. We hold this dear. Detachment, as we said. We are humanistic because we love all mankind. Everybody is our brother, etc., etc. Okay. But be careful of being distant. These are the negative aspects of Aquarius. Let's not be distant, aloof, or unemotional, or insensitive to other people's sufferings or needs. We can't afford to be stubborn or dogmatic or unreasonable, overly logical, or tactless for that matter, and being difficult to deal with. These are the negative aspects of Aquarius. Now, last year, Pluto was in Capricorn. So these were the energies that we had to deal with in 2024, right? Shouldering of burdens or our duties or our responsibilities as a group. Patience. We worked hard to achieve our spiritual goals using the will. There was a strong emphasis on Ray 5, on the lower mind, study, because Capricorn, Ray 5, rules the mental plane. But the mental plane is dual, let's not forget. The lower mind and the higher mind, the soul, because Venus is the ruler of the 5th creative hierarchy of souls. So the emphasis was seeking the soul, reorienting our consciousness towards the soul. So on an even higher level, the emphasis too was on spirit, on the will of the soul. Because last year we studied the third eye, which was all about the will of the soul, the organ of distribution of not only the will of the soul, but also of the spiritual triad. So we were encouraged to reorient our consciousness towards spirit. So as the qualities of Capricorn, we struggle to reorient our consciousness towards both the soul or spirit or the triad. And as DK says, effort, strain, struggle, the fight with the forces native to the underworld, or the strenuous conditions entailed by the tests of discipleship or initiation. This is us here, because we struggle to, and we had to work hard to reorient our consciousness and keep it steady towards the soul. And these are distinctive of experience in Capricorn. But in November 24, Pluto changed sign and it moved in Aquarius for the next 20 years or so, because Pluto, being a slow-moving planet, it moves into a sign very, very slowly. And Pluto then will take nearly 20 years to move through Aquarius. So what then will be the emphasis? So now we have to change our emphasis. So the emphasis will be bringing to the fore Aquarian qualities as a group in the next 20 years. But meanwhile, because they blend, remember there is a conjunction. So if we go back here, you see the conjunction. In other words, these two qualities of Aquarius and Capricorn will be blending. So meanwhile, then the qualities of Aquarius and a Capricorn will blend. So we'll have to work hard, Capricorn, but expressing, concretizing, crystallizing, making real these Aquarian values of working and cooperating as a group for the good of the whole. To think as us and not as the polar opposite, me, Leo, polar opposite of Aquarius. To distribute love and life, these two streams of energies that Aquarius distributes. Therefore, will to good, the distribution of will to good or buddhi to humanity. So let's recall that we're moving into the Aquarian age, the two cycles of Aquarius, the lesser cycle of 2,500 years and the greater cycle of 25,000 years, whose ruler is Uranus, ray 7, but also the ray 7 is coming in. And our rising sign is Aquarius. So we are basically ushering, our group is helping to usher the Aquarian age. So the purpose of our soul group is to usher in, to promote, to precipitate the Aquarian values, to live them, not just keep them in a mental, on the mental plane, but to apply them and to distribute them. Aquarius is all about the distribution to the whole. Pluto is a planet of transformation, so it brings powerful and far-reaching change and transformation. And being in the 12th house, which is normally ruled by Pisces, and Pluto is the sole ruler of Pisces, therefore it brings the death of personality influence. With Pluto transits, we connect with our core purpose and deeper sense of power and will, because Pluto transmits ray 1. So transiting Pluto will bring, therefore, intensity and focus to our lives, reorientation, as I said, towards spirit, towards will, the will to love. Pluto transits are about letting go of things holding us back from profound and meaningful experiences which don't align with the soul or spirit. So our challenge then will be to be detached from personality attachments, ideas and thought forms that are no longer useful, but that we hold dear and keep our souls prisoner. That is not only the negative qualities of Aquarius, as I said earlier on, but also its polar opposite, Leo, which is all about me. So this is going to be our challenge this year and for the next 20 years. If we live that long, highly unlikely. So then what are the chakras involved? Now, this is a very, very interesting. Now, Aquarius, the personality ruler, Uranus, rules the head chakra, while Aquarius soul ruler, Jupiter, rules the heart. So we see already the connection between head and heart here. Pluto in Aquarius will intensify the activity of the head and the heart chakra in disciples, in us, will intensify the will to love. Aquarius, will, head chakra, and Jupiter, love, heart chakra in our group. Conjuncting Pluto in Capricorn, ray 3, which is the sign of concretization, crystallization, and form, remembering that Capricorn rules the throat chakra. So these two signs, Capricorn and Aquarius, merging because they conjunct, right, leads to a focusing then of the will to love, head and heart. These energies to be precipitated and to be expressed through the throat chakra. If you remember, we have a whole stellium in our natal chart, right? We have Mercury, Mars, Sun, and Pluto, all in Capricorn, the sign of concretization. So here we have head, heart, and throat, the three aspects of will, love, and intelligence working together as one. And DK reminds us that Uranus rules the head chakra in disciples, which we've just mentioned earlier on. Uranus or Pluto, and I would say affect the soul life far more than they do the personality life. Therefore, subjectively, we will be affected far more than in our ordinary life, which is a good thing. And I thought I'd bring in DK's quote from Esoteric Healing. The throat center is ruled by Saturn, just as the two centers are ruled respectively by Uranus, ruling the head center, and Mercury, the Ajna center. This is where the disciple is concerned. These three planets constitute a most interesting triangle of forces, and in the following triplicities and their inevitable interrelations, you have again, only in the case of disciples, that is us, a most amazing picture story or symbol of the ninefold of initiation. As I said many, many times, our group is heading towards the third initiation. It doesn't have to be this in this lifetime, but this is what we are aiming at in God knows how many lifetimes. But this is where we're heading. So here are the triplicities. The head center, which we know is ruled by Uranus, the Ajna center, ruled by Mercury, and the throat center, ruled by Saturn. And this placed on the third eye, right eye, left eye, and on the physical plane, the pineal gland, the pituitary body, and the carotid gland, thus presenting the mechanism through which the spiritual triad, the soul, and the personality work. The key to a right understanding of process lies in the relation of these three planets, Uranus, Mercury, and Saturn, as they pour their energies through these 9 points of spiritual contact upon the physical plane into the grounded sphere of light and power, which is the man in time and space. So these three planets are very prominent in our group chart. The throat Saturn, the throat center is ruled by Saturn, right? Here, via our stellium, just as the two head centers are ruled respectively by Uranus, ruling the head center, right? Uranus is the ruler of Aquarius in our 12th house and in the sign in which it has just entered, and it is the ruler of our ascendant. This is where our soul is heading, our group soul. And Mercury, ruling the Ajna center, Mercury being part of our stellium here. So when Pluto conjuncts Pluto in Capricorn, it also affects all these other planets as well. So these three planets are so, so important. Saturn, Uranus, and Mercury being stimulated by Pluto or pushed along. Now, is this a coincidence that these three planets reflect the triangle that DK gave us in esoteric healing? Crown or head chakra, Ajna and Alta Major, which is ruled by the throat center, and that we practice diligently in our triangle of synthesis meditation. So we see then why DK gave us these triangles. And if you remember, DK tells us that for the group to be successful, we need to practice these triangles that rule two diligently. And that's what we do every day. Now that's quite stunning, isn't it? The next one is transiting Chiron here, Chiron in Aries, conjuncting exactly our North Node. Now, very, very briefly, friends, because Pia will probably talk about that as well. But let's understand who is Chiron. He's known as the wounded healer. Now, in the myth, Chiron was an immortal god, the son of Kronos, Saturn, and half-brother of Zeus. So we can see already Saturn, form, third aspect, Zeus, love. So heart and throat here already. So, and that gives you an indication of who it is. And we will clarify, I will clarify that in the next slide also. He was educated, intelligent, civilized, he was kind. He acted as a mentor and a teacher of a variety of arts, namely poetry, archery, warfare, philosophy, science, astrology, herbalism. He was also known for his knowledge and skill with medicine. That's why he rules the sixth house of health and surgery. He was a great healer. He was also an astrologer, and a respected oracle. He was said to be the first amongst centaurs. And if you remember, centaurs were uncouth, they were uncivilized, unrefined, total opposite to a Chiron, who was a centaur, but a much more refined, civilized, educated. And he was revered as a teacher and mentor. Now, if you look at the symbol of Chiron, look at this. It looks like a key. And Richard Knoll, and I would really, really recommend Richard Knoll in his book, Chiron, the key to our personality or the key to our destiny or something to this effect. I can't even remember now his book, but it's a most brilliant book and I would really recommend it. He remarked, a key is a device used to open a passageway from one reality to another. And that is, in essence, is just what Chiron represents. A door, interestingly, serves a dual purpose, right? It opens us to a new realm. But just as it closes us off from another dimension. or perspective. Friends, this is my take, my esoteric take on Chiron, okay? I'm just expressing my interpretation of what Chiron is. So this, to me, this is very symbolic of our consciousness, which can either be open-minded, thus thrusting and leading us to unfamiliar and uncharted territory, of course, to us, expanding our horizon, or it can be closed-minded and throwing us back into old, familiar, and safe environment. So our consciousness itself is the wounder, that is the one who inflicts suffering and pain through its ignorance. And it's wounded as it suffers unknowingly by its own hands. But it's also its own healer when it makes the right choice. So Chiron then can be viewed to be all three at once: the wounder, the wounded, but at the same time, the healer. So Chiron in our chart, to me, is like the door or the key which points to the way of transforming ourselves from a personality-centered individual to a soul-centered one. So here are Chiron's keywords. It is a key to one's self-transformation in consciousness. It's an intermediary or a bridge. It's the process of becoming whole, going from one state of consciousness to another. It's the integration of an inner and outer self. It's the teacher. It's our healing. It's guidance on a course of action or attitude. It's a doorway to a new way of being. It's a quest towards who we truly are for self-transformation. It's a catalyst, a turning point. Therefore, it is the unfoldment of one's consciousness. And the picture that I brought to you here is the solar angel, transforming our consciousness, our personality consciousness. So really, it's the transformation of our personality, a consciousness, to a soul consciousness. So Chiron then, the sign and the house that it is in, gives you the key to how you can transform your consciousness. So in our case, Chiron is in Aries, which brings ray 1 and ray 7. So here are some keywords of Aries, and I won't go through all of it, friends, because you are aware of it. But most importantly, Aries governs the head chakra. That is, it stimulates the will in us, gives us the determination, make us strong, upholder of principles, make us courageous and brave, enterprising, taking initiative, moving forward, taking action. And we are then the spiritual warrior. It fights for a cause because its ruler is Mars, aspiration. So Chiron then in Aries conjunct North Node. The North Node points to the path ahead, to the future, to our mission, to the energies we are meant to be engaging with, what to work towards. That is Aries. So being in Aries, it's asking us to intuit divine ideas, to be active in expressing them, ray 7, to be strong, brave, and to be the spiritual warrior, and to use the will, the head chakra. That is our path ahead, to be the spiritual warrior for hierarchy and the Christ. And the South Node being in Libra, that's what we've been used to as a group. So it's saying to us, enough sitting on the fence, get off your bottom, get out of here and do it. That's what Chiron in Aries conjuncting our North Node is telling us. Go do it. Take action. So in what area then of our lives are we to work with? So we've just worked out which energies that we are meant to be working with, the will to love, and in which area. It's the house that it is in. And if you notice, it is in the third house, and our Chiron is almost on the cusp of that third house. And I remember Michael always saying that when a planet is on the cusp, it's said almost to be in the next house, basically. So the next house then is the third house, and this is where our transiting Chiron is conjuncting exactly 19 degrees, our North Node. So where are we going to do battle? In the third house of the lower mind. That is, this aspect then is urging us to build the Antikarana, the third house, ninth house axis. Chiron conjuncting North Node activates this axis, activates the Antikarana. Being the divine triadal, bring the divine triadal ideas from the higher mind down to the third house of the lower mind. So build strong, assertive, potent, clear and well-defined thought forms of the teachings of the ageless wisdom. So flood the lower mind with these new, innovative, divine ideas. Educate, because here we are in the house which is normally that of ruled by Mercury, Gemini. So educate, learn, teach, communicate these ideas. So which ideas are these? They're all about hierarchies ideas, ageless wisdom, reappearance of the Christ, the soul, death, healing, hierarchy, the mental, the astral, and the etheric body, the Antikarana, Shambhala, and the extra planetary beings, etc., etc. Basically, all that we are studying. So bring these ideas down onto the mental plane, express them, verbalize them. So this is the area that our group then will be working. Thank you, friends. Here. Your turn.
Anybody want to ask you questions or anything?
Yes, sure, by all means.
I didn't want to just jump in. Maybe somebody wants to,
So sorry. I just wanted to give you a chance because I don't want to hog.
Oh, no. I mean, I'm not going to get through mine today anyway, so it's just a lot. But if anybody wanted to ask you questions or talk about it, I can wait.
Well, we can always do it next week.
Can I share my screen?
Please, please do.
It says, okay.
So we have to, hang on, we have to make you, I have to make you.
It just says you have to stop sharing and then I can share.
Okay, stop sharing. Can you share? I have to make you, oh, no, you're all right. You're okay.
Can you see it?
Yeah, we can see it. Beautiful.
Okay. So today, um, my approach is a little bit different. I'm gonna be talking about the nodes of fate as an astrological inquiry. Um, this presentation is actually the culmination and the synthesis of a number of classes that I've taken with Pam Gregory, Mary J. Cranmore, Kathy Rose, different people who came out of the London School of Astrology. So this information, by no means think that it came out of me. I stand on the shoulders of other people who have had years of experience in astrology, but who are now really trying to help us all understand ourselves better. I remember I had a professor in law school who said, um, why do people fail the bar? And he said, people don't fail the bar because they don't know law. He said, everybody who sits for the bar knows plenty of law. He said, they fail the bar because they don't apply the law. And that's the key to astrology. We can learn all the glyphs and we can learn all the different things and the meanings of it, but it's the application of it that can be so liberating and so freeing, which I found in my own life. And that being said, translating into a modality of healing, which is quite consistent with Master DK being, a second ray master and also being a master astrologer. So with that being said, let's turn into the nodes of fate and have this discussion. So before we get started, I know that there are people who are in our group, and we're keeping in mind in the back of our head that as a group, our north node is our north node is in Aries in the third house. And that being said, our south node will be in Libra in the ninth house, and our Chiron is also in Aries. And that's an interesting dynamic, which I'll talk about in a little bit. But so what is a lunar node? Well, it's not a planet, it's not a celestial being. It's actually just a mathematical point in the sky where the moon's orbit crosses around the Earth's orbit. So we know that the Earth orbits the sun and the moon orbits the Earth. Where these two orbits cross in the northern hemisphere is the north node, and where they cross in the southern hemisphere is the south node. And these are lunar nodes because they're involved the moon and where they cross the Earth's axis, the Earth's eclipse. So the lunar nodes are not planets, but rather coordinates calculated from the orbits of celestial bodies. They are always in opposite zodiac signs. The lunar nodes move in connection with eclipse cycles, and they are considered to be markers of collective destiny and evolution. They are represented in your birth chart by a horseshoe symbol for the north node. Recently, they updated that to say that they look like headphones, the north node. And the upside down horseshoe is actually the representative for the south node. Now, speaking in generalities, the North Node is said to reveal humanity's evolutionary goal in this life, or your evolutionary goal, while the South Node is said to reveal your outdated habits or destructive patterns that you brought in from past lives, or maybe even developed in early childhood. But if we take a deeper look, if we go into Dane Rudhyar, I recommend Astrology of a Personality, wonderful book. He says that if you lie along the nodal axis, okay, of the north and south node, the future is going to be facing north and the past is facing south. So that's the easy way to look at it. Another way, the Dane Rudyard says, is that the North Node actually encompasses the divine wheel. It therefore deals with the work to be done, the new accomplishment, the new faculty to be developed. And if we are willing to exert ourselves in that direction, from it we shall receive power and abundance. The North Node is the positive pole of integration. It is a point of ingestion and assimilation. He goes on to say that human will is represented by the South Node. It represents the work that has been done, the well-known accomplishment, routine performance already gone through many times. The South Node, the negative pole, is where disintegration of some sort, it may not be evil, however, takes place. It is the point of release and evacuation. So he says this axis of the moon nodes itself deals most directly with the very process of individuation. And so I know we're all familiar with Dane Rudyard and the work that he did with Alice Bailey. But I do add a caveat to that. Michael once talked about the Tibetan, speaking about initiates. And he said that there was, and this is at the time that Alice Bailey and Dane Rudyard were working together, that there was no initiate of astrology in the astrological ashram. So that being said, you know, take this, you know, if this resonates, if it resonates with your note, that's great. If it doesn't, please feel free to toss it aside. The eclipse cycle, the one that we're looking at, we're entering to now the Pisces Virgo eclipse. It's going to be from 2024 to 2027. And these are the dates. And I can give these to you if you want. There'll be key dates because we know that this particular axis, the Pisces Virgo axis, has to do with the Christ Pisces, transcendence, the soul binding, the personality, Virgo, the past, purification, the attempt to purify, but also to perfect. But its shadow side could be, you know, result in over criticism. So these particular dates are going to be key, particularly if you look at September 7th, 2025 and September 21st, 2025. We're going to have a lunar eclipse at 15 degrees Pisces and a solar eclipse at 29 degrees Virgo. Lunar eclipses usually indicate what is leaving or passing out of your life. Solar eclipses is initiating of the new. They often represent the father figure, the masculine principle. So they'll be very closely together. This fall, summer and fall, we will be having a lot of astrological activity. The last time we had this eclipse cycle or this node cycle was in June 2006 to January 2008. That's based on the mean node. So why do we even worry about these axes? What is it? You know, it's so interesting when we read the Tibetans' work in esoteric astrology. I always think of it sometimes as a cliff note, really, not really the full treatise. One sentence, you know, you could write an entire treatise on. But he hints here at the importance of how to look at these axes and the balancing nature that they provide. He says for the Pisces Virgo axis, he says the fluid sensitive temperament in Pisces, which is mediumistic and psychically polarized, must be stabilized in Virgo, in which sign mental introspection and critical analysis become possible and serve to arrest the fluidity of Pisces. These two signs balance each other. And we've been told over and over again throughout, I mean, Michael often referenced it, but it's also in esoteric astrology that Libra is going to become increasingly important in the zodiac. And why is that? Because it governs all opposites, the balancing of all opposites. And when we deal with these axes, that's what they are. They are opposites. And we have to bring them into balance for ascension. When we bring them into balance, we reach the point of equilibrium. And it's the point of equilibrium that's represented by the glyph in Libra, where the line with the bar with the hump over it, you can ascend to a higher state of consciousness. So that's what we're trying to do when we look at these nodes and bring them into balance and work with them and work with ourselves, our past and our future. So axes, what are we balancing on a personality level? Okay, if we look at the Aries Libra axis, we're balancing I, me, and mine with us and we. If we look at the Taurus Scorpio axis, we're balancing material security versus Scorpio, emotional or spiritual security. Gemini, we're balancing details and information versus Sagittarius, philosophy and big picture. Cancer, home and mother versus Capricorn, workplace, world, and father. Leo is the leadership expression of me versus Aquarius's leadership expression of we. Virgo, details which are measurable. Pisces, unmeasurable, dreamy. These are the polarities that we have to come to balance. Now, people on the path, naturally, if you meditate, if you're intuitive, you are doing this. You will naturally find when I go through some of these modalities that you're already doing it. But we know from a psychological perspective, and this is not, Catherine is here, that real healing takes place when we become conscious of what we're doing and, and how we're balancing it. That's when, we've really moved into a place of conscious awareness and healing. So we're here. I'm going to go through a short summary of the North and South Node in the signs and key themes as recognized by Pam Gregory. And you'll see that I give credit to the various courses and people that I got that provided this information and taught me. I think that is really key because I think there are some really fabulous astrologers out there who are doing great, great work. Our North Node, South Node is on the Aries Libra axis. And so we know the Aries, the archetype for Aries is the warrior or the pioneer. Libra, the archetype is the artist, the lover, the diplomat, or the counselor. Its positive aspects of Aries are leadership and courage and initiative, while its shadow is aggression and controlling nature. The positive aspects of Libra are grace, elegance, being artistic and polite. The shadow side of it is being indecisive, approval seeking, or passive aggressive. So what do we do if we find ourselves with a South Node in Libra and a North Node in Aries, which is much the what we're facing as a group with our North Node in Aries and our South Node in Libra in the third house? Well, if you have a South Node in Libra, you're relationship focused. And you probably have possible deference to the needs of others without regard to your own personal needs. You can also often be indecisive, people-pleasing, and a need for external validation, and an over-reliance on the opinions of others. A person with their South Node in Libra will agree to peace at any cost. The key thought about a South Node in Libra is a person who is over-adaptive to the needs of another person. That's what we face as a group. Our North Node our South Node is in the ninth house, which is philosophy, the higher wisdom. And so we have to, contend with or really deal with this if we bring the ancient wisdom forward. Do we need to have external validation from others? Do we over rely on what other people think about our interpretations? Are we indecisive? Are we trying to please other people with our interpretations or how we bring thoughts forward? And are we working so hard, for the needs of other people without regard to our own personal needs? The North Node in Aries asks us to be courageous and be able to go it alone. So if we have a truth, an ancient truth that's coming to us through us intuitively, we have to have the courage to bring it forward. We have to take initiative. And if it's something, we have to be willing to be the first. We're developing the will aspect and a strong sense of independence, individual identity, a strong physical constitution. People with the North Node in Aries are usually people who are very strong physically. You need to focus on your uniqueness, your unique gift. You know, you're the initiator. We know from looking at what is happening now, we have the sun conjunct Pluto in Aquarius. And so that's shining a light on the shadow aspects of Aquarius. One of the Aquarius in its highest octave is group consciousness, but in its lower shadow side, it can be tribalism. It's what we're experiencing now in the United States. Deaf or nativism, only wanting to be around your own people or people who look like you or think like you, to the detriment of people who are different. You know, this is what the sun is now doing. It's expanding this, and the drudger, Pluto, is bringing that to the surface for all of us to look at. And so when we think about our own individual gifts, our work that we do in the ancient wisdom, our struggles, our desires to bring the ancient fires forward, we have to be courageous. You know, we have to trust ourselves, trust our intuition, and develop the will aspect of it all. You know, be willing to be the first. That's the North Node in Aries. Now, if you have a North Node in Libra, uh, this is wrong. I just changed that, which is wrong. This is wrong. Okay. I'm sorry, everybody. But this should be South Node in Aries. I should not have written this Libra up there, but Aries is here because we should really start with the South Node first. You have a South Node in Aries. Aries is a very primal energy. You probably came into this lifetime as a very courageous person. You're independent. You have strong capacity to go it alone. The problem with Aries is that it usually will rush forth blindly, goes for it without consideration of consequences or the needs and feelings of others. Another aspect of Aries that needs to be changed is this concept of overwork. Aries are preoccupied with personal achievement. You know, it's an important motivating factor in their lives, and they may not know when to put the brakes on. They have no need for the approval of others. So how do you balance this axis when you come in, if this is what you're bringing in from the past, your past life? You've come in with a North Node in Libra, meaning that you have to learn to involve other people in your work. You know, you have to discover the benefits of collaboration and the gifts of others. You have to be willing to share the load with others, realizing that there may be better results that come and can be achieved by working together. You utilize diplomacy and social skills to achieve your aims, rather than just as a bull in a china shop, just blowing through people. You know, your emphasis on raw physicality is tempered by a recognition of beauty, and your impulsiveness and impatience gives way to patience and harmony, because we know that Aries can be very impulsive and very impatient. And the Libra, the balancing of that North Node should provide that ability and that stability. You know, social inclusiveness utilized to achieve goals should be the theme if you have a North Node in Libra and a South Node in Aries. The next axis, and I've only gotten 3. Next week I'll finish the other 2 because I know this is long. is a Taurus Scorpio axis. Um, what are some of the things or thoughts around Taurus and Scorpio? Well, the archetype of Taurus is the builder, the provider, the gardener. Um, it's seen as being practical, patient, and reliable. But the shadow side of Scorpio, of Taurus, is rigid and stubborn. The archetype of Scorpio is the shaman, the sorcerer, the therapist, the transformer, or the investigator. Positive aspects are passionate, intense, probing, mysterious. The shadow aspects, possessive, obsessive, controlling, emotionally complicated. If you have a south node in Taurus, there's a tendency, because it's an earth sign, to want to be the status quo. Usually from a past life, if you have a south node in Taurus, you came in with a need for security. You probably, either in your past life or in early childhood, had to deal with issues of survival and a need for physical safety. So there's a value seen in the physical. Tangible physicality is where the good stuff is. In order to feel safe, people with the South Node in Taurus will probably accumulate material possessions, which provides a sense of security. There'll be an overindulgence in a love of beautiful possessions, or an overindulgence in love of life's sensual pleasures, which include food, sex, and beautiful surroundings. They have a preoccupation with material pursuits. Money is, is seen as equivalent to security. And these are the things which need to be transformed. As we balance it through the North Node in Scorpio, you'll be drawn toward the spiritual, esoteric, and occult sciences, that moving away from the material aspect, more towards a spiritual focus, searching for a deeper understanding of life. Because of the North Node in Scorpio, you'll probably have a fascination with the death process and reincarnation. Study alternative forms of healing. Develop an appreciation for the body's energy system. Most Scorpios are deep divers in research. They make forensic like inquiries, and they are often engaged in self-transformation. The old self dies to the new self in regular cycles. And they also you will develop a discipline, a willpower, and a magnetism. These two, when you balance the north, if you lean into your north node and balance out, what needs to be transformed in the south node, and use some of those good qualities, the ability to concretize or bring things into the physical form. Scorpio, needs that. You have certain modalities, sort of is intuition. You can bring them in by use of tarot. Some people use tarot cards. We're talking about the third ray aspect here, but these are all modalities that stimulate intuition and can be utilized as in lieu of, or as complementary to other forms. Again, disciples or people on the path are naturally developing intuition, but then in order to work with intuition, it usually is in symbols. And so a great symbol system to use, if you come in, and this will be if you have a south node in Scorpio, is a tarot, because it would probably be an occult science that you already know. And that, if you were to take that up again in this lifetime, that's why I say practical application, it can stimulate your intuition. This is the way that I say applying the knowledge in a way that helps us to advance and to move. So if you have a south node in Scorpio, you have an instinctive desire to control others. Your emotional life may have been passionate, turbulent, vacillating between extremes. You probably had an intense sexual life. Psychic impressions gave rise to intense feelings and experiences. In early age, or even in a past life, you may have experienced the underside and the darkness of life, which would include death, sex, or criminal activity. You may also have experienced bouts of intense jealousy or possessiveness, and but you also may have been a healer and or study the occult sciences. And so the natural psychic gifts of the South Node in Scorpio, and then also the prior studies, if you're able to tap into that as a healer or occult sciences, you can bring that forward in Taurus. North Node, Taurus. You seek more peace and contentment. You move away from drama and the intensity of your past life. So with the North Node in Taurus, you will seek to be more balanced, more peaceful. So you'll study the spiritual laws, death, life, process in terms of reincarnation. You learn to appreciate the beauty in form, see the divinity in nature. Often people with a North Node in Taurus will engage in things like gardening. They have a very good business sense, and they learn to make the distinction between sensuality and sexuality. They balance materialistic interests with a spiritual focus, and they establish a sense of stability, understanding the instinctive wisdom of the body. One of the interesting things about a North Node in Taurus is that not only do you develop a good business sense, but you also learn how to manage your day-to-day affairs. That's one of the things that you have to lean into. So often we are confronted with the whole notion of spiritual bypass, the concept that because you're a spiritual person, you can just exist in the etheric realms. You don't have to worry about food, light, heat, or paying bills. When you get a North Node Taurus axis, North Node Taurus, South Node Scorpio axis, that spiritual bypass will be addressed. You will be confronted with that. We know that the South Node is the place where we have an emotional comfort, almost an astral default position. It's where we feel confident. It's where we've come out of. We've developed, our proficiencies there. The North Node are new things that the soul is trying to direct us toward, places that we don't feel comfortable, where we don't feel that we're necessarily a master of it yet, or even proficient. And so there may be some hesitance to go there. Oftentimes people go back and forth between the North and South Node most of their lives. And, but as you evolve on the path, you get to the point where these are balanced, and then you ascend. And the final one that I did for today, I know we're running out of time, is the Gemini Sagittarius axis. Gemini, known as the archetype, is known as the storyteller, the teacher, the writer, the messenger. Their positive aspects are they're clever, they're adaptable, and keenly perceptive. The shadow side of Gemini is they can be scattered, superficial, and nervous. Sagittarius, the archetype, is the philosopher, the teacher, the guru, the scholar. Their positive aspects are they're enthusiastic, harmonious, optimistic, and inspirational. The shadow side of Sagittarians is they can be blunt, judgmental, restless, and careless with the details. If you have a South Node in Gemini, you're usually drawn to city life and civilization, but you have a tendency to be scattered and indecisive. You have knowledge acquired through social interactions. That's how people with the South Node in Gemini learn, but they can't let it devolve into chatter, which can be meaningless chatter, which can be highly influential in the life. They accumulate a great deal of information, but it's breadth over depth. So they accumulate a lot of details, a lot of information, but it's not deep understanding of it. And but they bring, if you have a South Node in Gemini, it brings objectivity and lightness to circumstances. And that's one of the wonderful things that it can do when it's balancing out the North Node, the person who has a North Node in Sagittarius. A North Node in Sagittarius is a person who has come in to develop a big picture of things, a wider vision for the dissemination of information that they've brought in, because they can gather the information, an abundant and acquire a great deal of information because they have that natural proficiency from the Gemini and the South Node. But they're here now to focus less on chatter and distraction and be more into increased and focused drive towards a higher consciousness and understanding of the universe. They find stillness so that wisdom can be developed. They observe and weigh constant social distractions. They learn from the acute observations of people and situations, but they also have to be wary of their dogmatic tendencies and evangelistic predispositions. They can, black and white thinking, my way or the highway. This was wonderfully balanced by the South Node in Gemini, which is light. As we talked about it before, Gemini brings that objectivity and that lightness. It's the details, while Sagittarian is the big picture. And so you have the whole, philosopher together. They've brought both of them together. It's more clear when you have a South Node in Sagittarius will show. So if you have a South Node in Sagittarius, you probably entered this life with much wisdom. You probably studied metaphysics or sources addressing higher consciousness in your past life. You have a strong moral, religious, or philosophical code. You also have a tendency to be dogmatic or evangelical leaning. Your attitude of judgment towards self and others, with that, you can be blunt, direct, and tactless. But you may have been a philosopher in your past life, but you probably rarely put pen to paper. If you have a North Node in Gemini, the way you balance this axis is that you need to move into bringing down the higher wisdom to reality, making it accessible to others in simple ways. Wisdom has to be made practical. You're serving as a messenger. You have a natural curiosity and facility with language. And it's that language, that communication, the ability to break it down into simple terms that people can understand and connect with. Because you're not speaking for just yourself, but you're a messenger for a greater wisdom. And you share the acquired wisdom that you brought in from past lives. That's what Gemini allows you to do, is that love that comes forth. And there's a natural tendency to, though there's a natural tendency to conformity in Gemini, if you have a North Node in Gemini, what you're challenged to is to cultivate original thinking. What do you see? What can you bring through? That's how that Sagittarian South Node is brought into a higher octave. So I think I'll stop there. Yep, I'll stop there. If anybody wants to ask any questions or anything, I'll finish it with the other, this was a lot, with the other nodes the next time we meet. I wanted to wait for the for the Virgo Pisces axis, because that's really important in the sense that you have certain indicia in your chart that will let you know whether you came in with psychic gifts from the past, which relate to the houses and also the signs. And this is just a very, very general explanation of the nodes. You can also get into the aspects, of course, and get an even deeper understanding. But I hope this helped in some measure just to get us started. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was so enlightening, because not everyone, and I didn't fully understand the nodes until you brought it to our consciousness. So thank you so much for all this clarity around the North Node and the South Node here. Beautiful presentation. Thank you.
So I had to miss half of that. And that's on the website, isn't it, now? It's Louise.
No, I know. but I'm just waiting.
What's the question, Louise?
Oh, I had to. It's my work day. I had to go and do something. I couldn't sit through all of it, and so I need to go back and listen. I'm just.
Yeah, we'll be sending a link.
That's good. That's all I need to know. You'll send a link, and I can work it from there. Thank you. I'm a bit of a dinosaur with computers still,
That's okay.
but thank you. A link would be lovely. Good.
So did we do Virgo, Pisces? Yeah, or did I miss it?
That next time, Yvonne, because
Next-
it's a lot to synthesize, but also in
Okay, that's
relation to the Virgo Pisces, I wanted to be able to give you a chart with the indications on your natal chart of psychic gifts, because that particular axis is so involved in transcendence and the development of your psychic gifts.
Oh, thank you. I thought maybe I blacked out or something.
No, you didn't.
Okay, so we'll save it for next time. Okay, well, thank you. It was my son's birthday at 5:07. I had to call him and tell him that 52 years ago, they pulled him out of my belly. It was an emergency C-section. He said, thanks for that. Oh, okay, sorry. That's why I thought maybe I missed it. I was gone for a few minutes.
Do you have a south node or a north node in Virgo?
Yep.
Okay.
Well, good. Then you didn't miss
A north
anything.
node in Virgo and a south node in Pisces.
Okay, well, we will talk to the inner critic tomorrow, next time.
It'll be what, next Thursday?
Yeah, same time.
We
It's
do
up
it
to
on-
Nicole and
Yes, of
Yeah.
course. Let's keep.
I did, and I apologize not to get into Chiron, but it's just so much. And I felt bad about what I did for today because you can't really do it justice. There's just so much.
Yeah.
Just so much.
And it's a lot to absorb. So thank you both. And I hope your trip was okay, Nicole.
Yes, it was. Thank you.